Hey. What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Darrell Owens, back for another edition of One on One here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network and on airing on the amazing Bowie Television. Once again, everybody, I'd like to thank you all for tuning in for another episode of One on One. And we are at episode 193. It's week 15 of the NFL season. So the power rankings have entered week 15. And you guys know that 15 is always a special number for me. The sexiest day of the year is only just a couple days away. So counting down the days until your boy turns 41 years old. This weekend, Commanders head to New York. So I'll be heading up to New York for that to see if the Commanders can break this 8-game losing streak. Now, with all that being said, tonight we've got the Falcons and the Buccaneers going at it. These two teams faced off in week 1 of the NFL season. Buccaneers won 23-20 in a very tight contest. The season has went a weird way for both teams. The Buccaneers were hot at one point and some losses here and there, maybe some shocking losses. All that stuff. The Falcons, a team who I thought would finish second in this division, is slowly drifting towards the bottom. So we're going to see how that all plays out. With that being said, episode 193 of 101 is about to go down now here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network and, of course, on Bowie TV. Well, there's only one thing to do, and it's to start the show right now.
Welcome to the one-on-one. When it comes to ratings, man, we number one. I get the truth, then I give them the scoop. If anybody got a question, I give them the proof. Welcome to the one-on-one. When it comes to ratings, man, we number one. I get the truth, then I give them the scoop. If anybody got a question, I give them the proof. Welcome to one-on-one at Legacy Maker Sports Network.
Yep. Episode 193 here, one-on-one on the Legacy Maker Sports Network, and of course, airing on the amazing Bowie Television. We are here, ladies and gentlemen, for another fun episode as we count down the NFL season, as we are entering week 2 of the December football going on in the NFL season. And we are just a couple weeks away, 4 games left in the regular season, and the playoffs are here. And then 2026 will be here. So 2025 has went by fast and furious. But we've still got a lot of solid football to be played over the next few weeks to solidify some playoff spots. Some teams got some tough journeys ahead to try to make that happen. One of those teams play tonight in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as they host the Atlanta Falcons. The Bucs 7-6, the Falcons 4-9, and this game means a lot on both ends because here's the thing: that I don't even think the Falcons are officially eliminated from the playoffs. They could be, but it's one of those things where these teams have really like fought. You know what I'm saying? They really fought over the last, couple of months, I should say. Some of it's been ugly, a lot for the Atlanta Falcons, who are, by the way, eliminated from the playoffs. And a Buccaneers team who is trying to hold on tight because the Carolina Panthers are coming. If you didn't know, the Carolina Panthers are on the way, Tampa Bay. So you need to be very, very careful on how you handle things here in the next couple of weeks. Now, in those couple of weeks, before I get into the bottom and all that fun stuff, the Buccaneers play the Panthers twice. So the division is more likely going to be determined in those 2 games. Both teams are 7-6. And if, when that first game happens next Sunday, you better figure that bad boy out, because if not, everything could change. But we'll see. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started, ladies and gentlemen, because we got the bottom, the outside looking in, the top 10, the finale. We got to see where everything stands in week 15 or heading into week 15 of the NFL season. Let's start off with the bottom right now. All right. The bottom. We have entered the bottom of week 15, starting off with number 32. And they actually won last week, the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee took on the Cleveland Browns. So this is a game that I felt like Cleveland would win. The way Cleveland had been playing, it feels like they got a rebirth of energy with Shedeur Sanders at the helm. And I just thought that Cleveland would win this game. And they probably should have won this game. But bad decision making by a certain head coach on their side. And, the Titans just not giving up. Cam Ward and the crew getting the dub. And it was a much needed win. They hadn't won since they beat the Cardinals way back, I believe, in I think it was week 6 when they beat the Cardinals. So it's been a long time since Tennessee had a chance to taste victory. And so it must be, I know it's nice for them. They really, really wanted it, really, really needed it to kind of like shed a little light on the season. There's a lot of fans that be like, hey, Tennessee, what are you doing? We're trying to get the first pick of the draft here. And they hadn't won since week 5 in that nail biter 22-21 over the Cardinals. But now they get the win. They've dropped a few spots in the running for the number 1 pick. And it does take a lot of pressure off of them because they don't have to, trade the pick, but they still may trade the pick one way or the other. They may trade the pick to try to get, some more collateral, try to get some more picks in there, try to get some more pieces in there because they need a lot of help. It's no ifs, ands, or buts. They need a lot of help. So the Titans at 32, but a nice win over Cleveland and that 31-29 victory. At 31, the Vegas Raiders, who now currently have the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. Vegas is bad. Vegas is really bad, and there's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. They're just a really, really, really bad football team. And so they currently have the number 1 pick, which quarterback is more likely going to be something that they look in the direction of. And so it's a very interesting dynamic. Geno Smith will not play on Sunday. It'll be the Kenny Pickett show. And it's just his team has looked bad all year. Like I said, I seen him in person back in week 3, and it was rough. It was rough. They made the Commanders look phenomenal, especially the way the Commanders have played. They made the Commanders look phenomenal. At 30, the New York Football Giants, a team that has, they were on a bye last week, so they didn't have to worry about the stresses of trying to figure some things out. They've had, and I've said it on multiple shows, that they should be better than what they are, but they just aren't. I watched Hard Knocks the other day. They're on there. The NFC East is on there. So that's the Commanders, the Giants, the Cowboys, and the Eagles. And, the Giants seem like they understand where they are, and they just want to finish strong. So we'll see how that grows. But they got the Commanders this week. So we'll head to New York here at Bowie and see what happens. At 29, the New Orleans Saints. The Saints with a nice 24-20 victory over the Buccaneers. And this is what makes me worried if you're a Buccaneers fan. I don't know what's happening to this team, but it's happening at the wrong time. It's happening at the wrong time. And if you're a Buccaneers fan, I'd be scared. Now, this Buccaneers team still fighting throughout the season, tons of injuries. And it just, everybody's been nicked up. Godwin was nicked up. Evans, who should be back for this game. McMillan, also nicked up, who's supposed to also be back for this game. So they're getting healthy at the right time, but they've taken a beating throughout the year. And the Saints were able to take advantage and get win number 3. So now they're 2 games above what I said they would be this year. At 28, the Washington Commanders went out to Minnesota. Very nice experience. Very cold in Minnesota, y'all. Like freezing cold out there in Minnesota. I think when I went out there, it was like 11 degrees. There's snow on the ground, streets. I mean, like, it was just cold. A lot of love for Prince up there. So shout out to Prince. There was a lot of love for Prince. Lots of love for Prince. So shout out to, Prince, and the energy was great in US Bank Stadium. Commanders get walloped by the Vikings, 31-0. The Vikings look like the team they did last year. The Commanders just looked bad. There's no nice way to put it. They look bad. You lose Zach Ertz for the year with a gruesome ACL injury. Jaden Daniels will be out this week against the Giants. They re-aggravated the left elbow injury, and the injuries have just been beating them up all year. And to me, I've said it a couple weeks ago, I think they should sit on the rest of the year and let Marcus Mariota finish up the ship. I don't think there's no need to try to bring Jaden back out there. I know he's going to want to fight for it. I got a strong feeling he may come back out there for Christmas. I think that's will probably be the last attempt that they give at letting him play this season. And if something else happens, they just they got to be lucky they've gotten through the season. Hamstring injury, knee injury, elbow injury. It's just been a whole bunch of stuff. And this team have not been able to stay healthy. Tough year for the Commanders. They're at 28. 27, the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona, uh, they got destroyed by the Rams. It's going to be a very interesting offseason for the Cardinals. Will they keep Kyler Murray? Doesn't seem like that's the case. I don't think Jacoby Brissett is the answer. There's just a lot of unanswered questions in Arizona. A lot of unanswered questions. I don't know where they go from here. They're at 27. At 26, another team where I don't know where they go from here. Both quarterbacks seem to be out. Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor, the top two quarterbacks. And I think it's a young man named Bruce Cook. I could be wrong on that. But he's going to get the start for the Jets. Or it looks like he's going to get the start for the Jets. So, Brady Cook, so my apologies. So, Brady Cook, he had 2 picks in that game last week. Young kid out of Missouri, 6'2", 250 pounds. I just don't think it's going to be enough. And the Jets are, they've got a ton of first-round picks in the next 2 years, and they've got a lot of things to do to try to fix that thing. I still think they got the right man in charge in Aaron Glenn. He seems like he's a great players coach, but you got to get this man the talent. Got to get this man the talent. At 25, the Cleveland Browns. The Browns losing to the Titans. Cleveland should have won this game. Shedeur Sanders, an amazing game. I mean, Shedeur went out there and did his thing. Everything that you wanted to see from Shedeur. And the reason why Shedeur should have been the first or the second quarterback taken off the board. 364 yards. Only rookie quarterback to throw for 300 yards this year. 23 for 42. 3 touchdowns and a pick. Kid looked amazing. And he had a rushing touchdown. And what did they do at the end of the game? He leads them back after being down 31-17. He scores 2 touchdowns, gets them back within striking distance. 2 stupid plays. They didn't go for the extra point on the first time. They went for 2, didn't get it, and they were able to go back down the field, get an opportunity, and they went for 2 again, didn't get it. And both times, at least the last time, they took Shedeur off the field, and they tried to run some trick play, and it was a disaster. And the Browns lose. It's a bad deal, Cleveland. But he'll start this week against the number 2 team in the NFC North, the Chicago Bears. So, a tough test for Shedeur. We'll see how he handles it. At 24, the Atlanta Falcons. They played tonight and are hoping to ruin the Buccaneers season. They got things started on the wrong foot at the beginning of the season against the Buccaneers. They're going to try to ruin it tonight. Atlanta's just another team where it just seems like a lost cause so far this year. At 23, the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati loses a tough one to Buffalo, 39-34. They were in the mix. Technically, they still have a shot in this division, but it's starting to slip away. And a win against Buffalo would have went a long way. Could have put them at 5-8. The Ravens are 6-7. The Steelers are 7-6. So they're still in the hunt. But Buffalo finds a way to get a big win in a 39-34 victory over Cincinnati. But they're 4-9, so don't mind they're 4-8. They're 4-9, and they still have a lot to try to figure out. At number 22, the Minnesota Vikings. 5-8, their playoff hopes not completely shattered, I believe. I think they are still in the mix, if I'm not mistaken. And, Minnesota, you got to keep fighting until the end. If you win 4 straight games, you might luck up and get yourself in the playoffs. Who knows? And they had to start that against Dallas this week. But a nice win. It was a very nice stadium. Great hospitality. Shout out to my girl Brady in the Minnesota PR staff or Minnesota staff who was very nice and kind to me out there. And we had a good chance to talk, and she was talking about her experience. Really nice person. Shout out to Brady. And just, I can't believe I'm saying this, but shout out to the Minnesota Viking fans. Even though this team is struggling where they are, they were loud and proud up in that dome. That's what you want as a fan base, no matter what. It was nothing but a sea of purple. So shout out to Minnesota. I got to give them that much. Can't believe I'm saying that. At number 21, the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens lose a game they needed not to lose. And when they need it, or win the most. They failed. Just miserable timing to lose that game against Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh regains the lead in the division. And the Ravens were going on the right path. They had won a couple games in a row, and now the struggles have kicked in. They were 6-5, and now they've lost 2 in a row. Now they've got to try to figure some things out, and they got to figure them out quick. And they flexed their schedule, so now that they have 2 really big games here, against the Packers and against the Patriots after this game that they have this week. So it's just like, it doesn't get any easier. Gotta figure that thing out. So here it is, the bottom. Titans, Raiders, Giants, Saints, Commanders, Cardinals, Jets, Browns, Falcons, Bengals, Vikings, and heading the bottom, number 21, the Baltimore Ravens. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has been an interesting season, and a lot of teams have kind of seen themselves in some maybe some bad positions per se. But these teams at the bottom, there are still a couple that are in playoff contention. The Bengals, the Ravens, obviously, the Vikings are still in contention, and those top tier teams at the bottom still have a shot. So we'll see if they can figure themselves and maybe get back into the outside looking in and find their way into the playoffs. With that being said, let's go to the outside looking in. All right. Outside looking in at number 20, the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City is almost out of the playoffs, y'all. They're 6-7. They're still in the mix, but it's getting real thin. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but Patrick Mahomes-led Kansas City Chiefs may not make the playoffs. Tough loss to the Texans on Sunday night. Just couldn't get it going. And they were ready for it. No ifs, ands, and buts. So it was very insane to kind of see how it all played out. And like I said, just a shout out to the Chiefs for everything that, shout out to the Texans for all the hard work that they put in to get this win. I mean, the Texans were 1-5, I believe, and now they fought themselves into they may have been 1-4, something weird like that. But they are now 8-5, and they have secured the last spot, or currently hold the last spot, I should say, in the AFC playoffs. Shout out to the Texans. But the nice win over Kansas City, and we're closer and closer to maybe a small rebuild in Kansas City, maybe a small one. A lot of changes in the offseason could be coming their way. At 19, the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins beat up on the Jets, winning 34-10. And, hey, look, this team was in bad shape, but they've been winning games, and they've been beating teams that they needed to beat. And the Dolphins could be a team that sneak into the playoffs. You have to be careful. Now, still feel like they have to win out, but they're fighting. If they win this week, they will see themselves at 7-7, which did not look like a possibility, and it may save McDaniel's job. That's the crazy part. It may save McDaniel's job. So we are going to see if they can hold on tight. Big Monday night matchup against the Steelers. They don't do too hot and cold weather, so we'll see. At 18, the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas had a chance on Thursday night last week to put themselves in a really good spot, because if they would have won, they'd be 7-5-1, and they'd be a half game behind the Eagles, and with a chance to win the division and shock everyone. The Eagles are struggling, and they had a chance to take advantage of it, and they didn't. They still have a chance, but they've got to me, they're going to have to win out, in my opinion, and have the Eagles slip up at least twice, in order to try to win this thing. So we'll see if they can make it happen. But the Cowboys are fighting. They have not given up. At 17, the Carolina Panthers. I'll say this, and I'll move on about Carolina, because they were on a bye last week. Carolina, I think, is going to win the NFC South. Carolina's going to win the NFC South, and it's going to be a little shocking to a lot of people. But Canales and the crew have really worked hard in the last season up until now to get a better football product on the field. And they beat the Rams, who are atop the NFC. Look, watch out for the Panthers. That's a problem you don't want. They beat Green Bay. They're number 2. They beat the number 1 team and the number 2 team in the NFC currently. So I'm just saying, Watch out for the Panthers. At 16, the Pittsburgh Steelers, 27-22 victory over the Ravens. Much needed win, much important, just whatever you think they needed it. And they have been having their struggles, but it's a nice win against Baltimore in Baltimore. And they still have to face off one more time this season, but this was a very nice win for Pittsburgh. At 15, you also got to see the old school discount double check from Aaron Rodgers. So a lot of nostalgic for Packers fans out there watching the game. At 15, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll say this about Tampa. Tough loss to the Saints. It's a division matchup. Anything can happen in the division. What I will also say is you better watch out. You better not pout. And I'm telling you why. The Carolina Panthers are coming to town. I'm just saying, be aware. Be aware, because it's not looking good. At 14, the Indianapolis Colts. Speaking of teams that are not looking good, the Colts at one point were 7-1. 7-1. All right. They are they were 1-4 in their last 5 games. And then you lose Daniel Jones for the season, ACL, after such a promising season. And then, your backup quarterback, he's banged up. So what do? You bring in the potentially soon to be NFL Hall of or Pro Football Hall of Famer in Phillip Rivers. And Phillip Rivers is signed to the practice squad. Phillip Rivers hasn't played since the COVID. It's been 5 years, which it doesn't even seem that way, but he hasn't played in 5 years. And so that's how long that the Colts problems a little bit longer than that, but last time they may have had some stability at the position. And so now he's back, but here's the kicker. He can still make it, like if he gets selected for the Pro Football Hall of Fame this year, he still can do it, right? If he still get in if he decides or they decide not to sign him to the active roster and he stays on the practice squad. So as long as he's on the practice squad, he's still eligible. But if they decide to start him, which there's whispers that he may start against Seattle this week, if that happens, he's got to wait another 5 years in order for him to make the Hall of Fame. Now, there's a part of me that thinks he would not make it this year anyway. It may be more of a next year thing for him and I think he may have gotten some word on it because I think that's the only way you really do that. You don't come back unless you need the money. You somehow still have the passion. They had to pay him some good money or offer him some type of good contract in order for him to come back because I don't see why you come back if you're Phillip Rivers. Now, he does have 117 kids at home. That could be a problem. Sometimes he's like, I love him, but I need some time away. And it's Christmas, so that tells you a lot going on for the Indianapolis Colts. At 13, the Philadelphia Eagles. This team is struggling offensively. I don't know what's going on. But if you're an Eagles fan, you need to be worried. That game against the Chargers, absolute disaster. It's like a 4-pick performance for Jalen Hurts. 4 picks? That's not Jalen Hurts. 21 for 40, 240 yards, 4 picks. And then he had a fumble. He had 2 turnovers on one sequence. It just doesn't happen. And I don't think it's all Jalen Hurts. There's just a lot going on offensively in Philly. But, boy, they better figure that thing out quick. This man had 5 turnovers. 5 turnovers against the Chargers. I picked the Eagles to win that game because you never know what Chargers team you're going to get. And it still wasn't pretty, but they won the game. So, shout out to the LA/San Diego Chargers. At 12, probably the hottest team in the AFC. And no, in most cases you would say that, but then you got the Broncos and the Patriots who have both won 10+ games in a row. So in this case, we're going to say the third hottest team, and they've snuck their way into the playoff picture in a beautiful way in the Houston Texans. They're hanging in. They're starting to play better football. They got the number 1 defense in the NFL. They could be a problem in the AFC. If the Chiefs don't get in, and I feel like this is the way in both conferences are wide open. The Super Bowl potential is wide open, especially if the Chiefs don't get in. And I know you're probably saying, what the real the Chiefs are not playing? That don't mean nothing. You get them into playoff time. You get Pat Mahomes, who's been to 5 Super Bowls. He knows what he's doing. You don't want that problem in the playoffs. So if you can make that happen, we could have a fun playoff where it could just be anybody that makes it to the Super Bowl. And I'm excited for that. I mean, everybody's got a shot that make it in. So a strong shot. And it just could be anything, just any given Sunday/Saturday/Monday night. At number 11, the Detroit Lions. Detroit with their win over Dallas 44-30. I don't know what it is about the number 44 this year. There's been a lot of games where teams have scored 44, and I don't know if this is the most time in NFL history that a team has scored the number or ended the game with the number of 44, but it feels that way. And a lot of 22s, too. I don't get what's been going on with that. I've seen two of them personally. So I was at two of the games where the 44-22 score was a thing. It's insane. But the Lions get the nice win. They're trying to get back into the outside looking in. They're trying to get back into the playoff picture. They're right there, but they're not there. And so they've got to figure out a way to sneak past and get back into the playoff picture. So here it is, outside looking in. Chiefs, Dolphins, Cowboys, Panthers, Steelers, Bucks, Colts, Eagles, Texans, and number 11, the Detroit Lions. The playoffs continue to get a little bit closer. We can feel the playoffs. We can feel the atmosphere. We can feel everything that's going on, all of the pressure that's going on right now with these teams. It's going to be a fun ride the next couple of weeks. I'm very excited to see how it all goes down as we head into the sexiest day of the year. We head into Christmas. We head into New Year's. And, of course, we find out how these playoffs are going to get going. So, we'll see. But just prepare yourself. Sit back, and let's see what we got fun going on in the NFL playoffs. Now, it is time to find out who is number one. Let's go to the top 10. Top 10. At number 9, the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers won a bye this week. They're a tough football team, and they're still, to me, it feels like they're still getting started up. Purdy's starting to get his feeling back. McCaffrey's having a solid season, just not being talked about as much. Brandon Ayuk is still lingering out there. We don't know when Ayuk's coming back, but that's still a big piece to the puzzle if they can get Ayuk back and healthy. So there's a lot going on in San Fran, and they're a team you don't want to face if they're in the playoffs. And right now, I believe they're number 6, and I will know for sure here in a little bit. I think they're number 6, and if the playoffs started today, they would face a team called the Philadelphia Eagles. At number 9, the San Diego, a.k.a. LA Chargers. Chargers with their win over the Eagles, a nice win. They're 9-4. I always say this, but I feel like the Chargers are the weirdest 9-win team. Can't put my finger on it. It's just something about them. Yeah, they don't ooze confidence. They don't ooze, to me, they don't ooze the, hey, man, we got this. Every time I start to get confident in them, they show me why I shouldn't be. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, San Diego. Prove me wrong. At number 8, the Chicago Bears. Another team that has played some really good football this year. Tough loss to the Packers in Lambeau, 28-21. Caleb Williams ended up throwing a game deciding interception with 28 seconds left on the clock. They were driving, and the Packers were able to hold them off to get the win and reclaim the lead in the NFC North. But that dogfight is not over. They've got to face each other they got to face each other one more time. And I believe, and if I'm not mistaken, Detroit has to face Chicago in Chicago. And with that being said, that's going to finish the season. So the Bears have a tough road hit themselves. The Bears have the Browns this week, so you got to win that one. Can't afford to lose it. Then you got the Packers on a Saturday night primetime game. Then you have the 49ers on a primetime game on the Sunday of the 28th. And then on Sunday the 4th, they will take on the Detroit Lions. So it's a tough road for the Bears. If the Bears are not careful, they could be out of the playoffs. That's why this thing is still wide open. And it's not going to be an easy road for Chicago. But can they do it? I do believe they can get into the playoffs. They're a really good football team this year. Shout out to Ben Johnson. Shout out to Caleb Williams. And that's hard for me to say. But I see good football, and I don't want to take anything away from that solid football team. At 7, another team that has maybe shocked the NFL this year a little bit, the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Coach Cohen got them at 9-4, leading the division. And, at first, you got to watch out for the Colts. But now the Texans are starting to creep up. If you're Jacksonville, you got to find a way to hold them off so you can win that division and get a home playoff game at Everbank. We'll see if they can make it happen. At number 6, the Buffalo Bills. Nice 39-34 victory over the Bengals. kind of get back in the spot they need to be. They got a big game against the number one seed or the number one seed in or number two seed in the AOC right now. Number one on our power ranking, New England Patriots. It's going to be a big matchup. They got to find a way. They can't afford to lose this game. They lose this game, and I think New England wins the division, if I'm not mistaken. So, because at that point they have a 2-game lead over them, and that would also put them in position to clinch a play. They should have been able to clinch this playoff spot. So Buffalo's got to win, and with a chance to keep AFC East championship, hopes alive. Should be fun. At 15, at 5, the Green Bay Packers. Packers, nice win. Nice win over the Bears. Much needed win over the Bears. And a great job by Green Bay sweeping the division for the last couple of weeks. They faced each team in the division, and they won every game. They beat the Lions on Thanksgiving. They beat the Vikings a couple weeks ago in Lambeau. Then they beat the Bears at home. So they still have 2 more games in the division. They're on the road. So, they've got to find a way. The Packers have a tough schedule as well. Denver this week, then Chicago, then Baltimore, and then they face a Vikings team at the end. Green Bay is another team that they have to be careful. There's some tough matchups in there, and I think Green Bay has to win at least 2 to be comfortable and in the playoffs, in my opinion. You want to get to 11 wins, and I think that'll put you where you need to be, at least to get into the playoffs. So they got to find a way to win 2 of these last 4, and I think they should get in. At number 4, the Seattle Seahawks, another team that is going to be very tough to mess with. I like what they've got going on there. They're not going to be a slouch, and for them, I want to see what Sam Darnold and the crew can do. I really do think they can make some noise in the playoffs this year. It's an open book, y'all. That win over the Falcons was an absolute beatdown, and Sam Darnold is playing great football. Jackson Smith-Njigba is still cooking his way to get into that 2,000-yard receiving season. So we'll see if he can make it happen. At number 3, the LA Rams. The LA Rams are cooking. They bounced back from that loss to the Panthers, winning 45-17 over division rival the Cardinals. And now they got a big game against Detroit this week. Detroit needs that game. They cannot afford to lose that game against the Rams. Detroit needs everything at this point if they want to try to make the playoffs. It's, like I said, it's going to be a dogfight, but this is a big game coming up for both teams. But they're at number 3. At number 2, the Denver Broncos. The Broncos, they get a win over the Raiders, 24-17. Never looked like they were in really any trouble during this game, in my opinion. And they handled things quite well. Now, you're saying, Darrell, well, why ain't they number 1 this week? Yes, they probably could be number 1, but I feel like New England is where they need to be at the current time. And we're going to see how this all plays out. So those 2 teams are jockeying for position as well. All right, everybody, top 10, 49ers, Chargers, Bears, Jaguars, Bills, Packers, Seahawks, Rams, Broncos, and number 1 for another week, the New England Patriots. There they are, the power rankings for week 15. Now we're going to finish this thing up properly, ladies and gentlemen, with the finale. All right, finale. Our Kings of the Gridiron for week 15, a week 14 players of the week, but our power ranking for week 15, Kings of the Gridiron. Offensively, Tony Pollard for the Titans. All right, 25 rushes, 161 yards, 2 touchdowns, averaging 6.4 yards per carry in the 31-29 victory over Cleveland. On the defensive side of the ball, Jack Campbell, 12 tackles, 1 sack, and a forced fumble in the 44-30 victory over Dallas. These 2 gentlemen are our Kings of the Gridiron for week 14, their first ever Kings of the Gridiron. So shout out to both players. And in a year where the Titans have had a lot of struggles, it's nice to see them get a player of the week. And the Lions are still fighting, ladies and gentlemen. They are still fighting. Heading over to our MVP race. Change just a smidgen. I've taken Jonathan Taylor out of the MVP race for now. And he has a chance to get right back in. He does lead the league in rushing, But these last couple of weeks have been a really rough deal for them. And you could probably say, well, Darrell, why didn't you take, you know, Myles Garrett out? Myles Garrett is on pace for a historic year. I mean, he's only at 3.5 sacks, I believe, away from breaking the all-time record of sacks. I still think he might get 30. If he has another one of those 5-sack games, he may reach 30. But I think he's going to take I think he's probably going to get to 26. That's my prediction. I think he gets to 26 and, at least at the minimum 26. So, but here it is, our top 5 MVP candidates. Jackson Smith-Njigba, who is having a phenomenal year, who's on the precipice, is that the fancy word they say, of getting to a number that has never been done before by a receiver for yards in a season in 2000. Can Smith-Njigba get that? I still just get mad when I think about how the Packers had a chance to get him, but that's the Packer enthusiast talking to me. Number 4, Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett continues to be the monster that he is, 20 sacks on the season. He's in a really good spot. He's a defensive player of the year in my mind. And even on a team that is 3-10, he is a defensive player of the year, and you can't change my mind. At number 3, back in the MVP candidate race, Jordan Love. The Green Bay Packer quarterback has played some really good football this year. He takes care of the football, knock on wood. 22 touchdowns, 4 picks. He's just finding magic whenever they have an opportunity. I call him the quiet assassin. He doesn't make a lot of noise. He doesn't seem flustered at any point in time. Just goes out there and does the job. He's a totally different monster than Brett Favre and what Aaron Rodgers were. They both had different styles. You had the gunslinger. You had probably the most accurate passer in NFL history, one of the most dangerous passers in NFL history in Aaron Rodgers. Then you got a cool, calculated, deep ball threat in Jordan Love. That is just when he's going, he's going. So we'll see. At number 2, Drake May. Drake May is looking to get into that number 1 spot. But to me, Matt Stafford still is the MVP of the league right now. He also only has 4 interceptions, but I think he has like 30 touchdowns. He's having a really good year. And right now he's got the Rams the number 1 seed in the NFC. So there it is, top 5 MVP candidates. And speaking of if the playoffs started today and who's who and who's where, if the playoffs started today on the AFC side, the Denver Broncos will be the 1 seed, chilling with a bye. The number 2 seed, New England Patriots, would take on the number 7 seed, Houston Texans. The number 3 seed, Jacksonville Jaguars, would take on the number 6 seed, Buffalo Bills. The number 4 seed, Pittsburgh Steelers, would take on the number 5 seed, LA Chargers, a.k.a. San Diego Chargers. So just once again, it's just a wide open field in the AFC. Head to the NFC, things are the same. Now, granted, the NFC/NFL/Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles are still in there. And if they get their act together, they're a problem. So you got to watch out. But Philly has to watch out for Dallas because they are creeping. At number 1, the LA Chargers. I said it wrong. Sorry, guys. The LA Rams, 2 in the LA teams. The LA Rams, number 1 seed in the NFC, chilling the top, chasing behind them, a game and a half back. The Green Bay Packers at the 2 seed. Once at one point were the number 1 seed, but the Rams have taken over. The Eagles have had it at one point. The Bears have had it at one point. So it's bounced around a little bit, but who's going to have it at the end of the season? The number 2 seed, Green Bay Packers, will take on the number 7 seed, Chicago Bears. I'm just going to be as honest with you as possible. If Green Bay wins that next game, I do not want to see Chicago in the playoffs for a third time. If Chicago wins the next game, I'm a little bit more comfortable with it. I don't want to see him a third time, period. You just never want to see a division team 3 times in a season. You just don't. If you can help it, unless you just dominated them tremendously, then you may have a different opinion. But the Chicago team is good. At 3, the Eagles will take on the number 6 seed, San Francisco 49ers, who are a team I really do think people have to be careful of. They are going to get hot, and they could be a very strategic, very dangerous problem for teams. At number 4, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Well, I don't think they're going to have that spot for too much longer. And the number 5 seed, Seattle Seahawks, who are only a half game back or game back of the Rams. The wrong move by the Rams. They lose this weekend and Seattle beats the Colts. Well, guess what? Then Seattle retakes the division lead. Look, that division is not over. You got 3 teams with 9 wins. San Francisco's only in the game and half back. Man, San Francisco could end up winning that spot. It's going to be a wild 4 weeks. Now, checking out your boy record, 129-7 the 8-1, 8-6 last week. Not my best week, but I'm still on the winning front. 10-4 in week 12, 10-6 in week 13. I am sad that I didn't get my another week of double-digit wins. I have been cooking on that end, but I'll take what I can get, and I still got a chance. I need to get 60. I think I got to get 61 wins, or I need to get about like 30. I can't count, y'all. 30, maybe 41 wins. So I need to try to find a way to get like 10 wins and stay consistent. But I want to keep under 100. 100 losses, no 100 losses. Just got to keep going. And I think I can make some magic happen, y'all. I really do think I can beat my record from last year, which is the goal. I want to get past my record from last year. And so last year, your boy won 171 games, went 171 and 1. 171 and 101. So if I can get, 99 losses this year, your boy is in good shape, to beat that record. But we'll see. Now, going to tonight's game, I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers holding off the Atlanta Falcons 23-16. But do not be surprised if Atlanta wins this game. Something going on with the Bucs that they've got to try to figure it out. But they do have Mike Evans coming back. McMillan's coming back. At receiver, it's going to be something to watch out for in that contest. Then our picks, or my picks for the week, there are no more buys the rest of the way. So we will have 16 games of NFL football the last 4 weeks, period. We have the Buccaneers. I got them winning. I got the Ravens winning, even though there's something in my spirit that says that's going to go to the Bengals. I picked the Giants, but I also feel like this could be a Commanders win, but I'm going to go with the Giants. The Packers over Denver, there's another game where I feel strongly it could go the other way, and I wouldn't be surprised. But Green Bay is at home, and they've got to take advantage of it. The Bills, I got the Bills, the Jaguars, the Chiefs. The Chiefs are another weird one. They've got the Chargers this week, so that's a weird one. The Texans, the Browns. Yes, I picked the Browns over the Bears. I think they could shock them. But also wouldn't be surprised if the Bears win that game. I got the Eagles, the Seahawks, the 49ers, the Panthers, the Rams, the Cowboys, and last but not least, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Those are my picks for Week 15 and my winners. And I'm intrigued to see how it all plans out. I really am. All right, everybody, that's it. Episode 193 of 101 is in the books. And I want to thank you all for tuning in, for listening to me ramble for the last 40-plus minutes. And I hope you enjoyed it. Hope that you'll be back next week for episode 194. And as we get into week 16 of the NFL season. And then by that time, we would have been officially deep into the sexiest week of the year, which technically starts Sunday. Yes, my birthday is on Monday, but Sunday starts the week, all that fun stuff. Yeah, Sunday starts the week first. Does it? Whatever. I'm going to count it that way. Whatever. All right, everybody. Once again, thank you all for tuning in for another episode of 101 here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network. And, of course, airing on the amazing Bowie TV. Until next time, thank you all for tuning in. Take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful weekend. If it's snowing, go outside and enjoy snow. If it's not, stay warm. Make sure you get plenty of food. Don't get stuck. And try to enjoy much football. Shout out to all the teams that are in the Virginia State Championship games this weekend. Good luck to you. Hoping for the best for you. Until next time, everybody, I'm Darrell Owens. Take care. Be safe. And sexiest day of the year is on the horizon.
One. Welcome to the 101. When it comes to ratings, man, we number one. I get the truth, then I give them the scoop. If anybody got a question, I give them the proof.